Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scribo here, speaking to you from the Seed of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. It's time for the astrology and Kabbalah of the coming month. That is September 2022. And now we can get started. Okay, everyone. So the first thing we're going to look at are the numbers for the new month. And we start with the monthly vibrations. Well, we start with all the numbers, right? We have the monthly vibration of 9. These are just keywords for the different numbers. We have endings and beginnings in 9. Remember, last month was 8. As you sow, so shall you reap. And we saw a lot of things that sort of come to fruition and come to a point of harvest, depending on how you spent your time planting, right? So this is a time, the 9 is a natural time for us to see what we have harvested, to examine what has come to pass at this time, and to figure out what we want to keep and what we need to let go of. So it's a time of keeping the seeds of those things that were successful in your life, so you can replant those seeds. And then those things that were unsuccessful, that did not work for you, this is a time to let them go. And so that we have room for the new to come in. This is a great time to declutter, to get rid of stuff. Of course, this is the time when when the sun's in Virgo, and we have a lot of planets in Virgo. So this is a great and a natural time, because of course 9 is the vibration of the month that the sun spends most of its time in Virgo. We also have the universal year vibration, which is the 6. This is the vibration of love and service. And so this is a vibration that we've been moving through and experiencing this whole year so far, all 8 months of it, and moving on to the 9th month. And then if we add these two vibrations together, we get the specific vibration for the month and the year, which is a 15-6 vibration, which is the question is being asked at this time. Are you ready to free yourself from the chains you hold dear? Are you willing to free yourself? Okay, let's take a look. So the monthly vibration 9, and I get this from the book Spiritual Light Vibrations by Jean. She states that this is a time of unfolding and completion. Your project has bloomed and you are ready for a new beginning that will unfold. How exciting. You will be concerned with humanitarian affairs and universal brotherhood for all. Your strong convictions are of great value for the betterment of the whole. Then we have the Hermit here. The universal year vibration, 6 is the number of community, responsibility, conditional love, and family. Be prepared to respond in a flexible manner to any changes in your life. We should be good at that by now, right? Home and domestic situations are most important at this time. Keep a positive attitude so you do not suffer depression or inertia. Responsibilities and service to others should always be kept in balance. And the 15-6 vibration. You must never disregard your own inner feelings. Look beneath the surface and see the situation as it really is, and make the changes necessary to, I think it should say, put things in order. I missed a word. Responsibility to people, things, or circumstances could either limit you or set you free. Learn to understand the balance between freedom and responsibility. And all these descriptions of these vibrations are from Jean's book, Spiritual Light Vibrations by Jean. So we can look here and see where these vibrations fall on the tree of life, what paths or sephiroth are e- e- excited or invigorated or activated at this time. And we here have the tree of life here, the caduceus, which is actually its own sort of tree of life. And then we have the lightning flash. This is how spirit manifests in a lightning flash. So let's talk about the 9 vibration. This is the vibration of the Hermit and is associated with the sign of Virgo. We also have the Hebrew letter Yod here. So it says, this is the 20th path, the path of the intelligence of will. It mediates between Hesed, the universal principle of production, mercy. In Hesed, all things are created. It is the 4th sephiroth. 4 is about making things real, creating the structures for. Now, the structures aren't actually created in Hesed. We don't really see structure in the Tree of Life until we get to Malkuth and actual things that we can touch. But it is the energy of structure and giving everything that we need. So there's this sense of having everything that we need in Hesed. And Tiphareth is the heart, right? Tiphareth is the center of the tree. It's the place of balance. It's the place of the now, okay? And this path connects this abundant Hesed vibration or energy with our ability to balance, our ability to find poise, our ability to stay within the present moment. The astrological attribution of this path is Virgo. The intelligence of the will is the knowledge that you create your world with your own hand, The Hebrew letter is Yod, which means creative hand. In fact, the whole Hebrew alphabet is just a series of these small little yods or flames. Hebrew is known as a flame language. I believe Sanskrit is also considered a flame language, direct from spirit, right? The essence here is the source of wisdom is within. The hermit becomes wise because his path is a lonely path and an introspective one. So hermits generally are quite introspective and quite full of wisdom. The veil, which is the illusion often associated, or the lie often associated with this energy, is the illusion of newness, is changing. In changing circumstances, the deepest problems will be solved. The illusion of newness. So what is that? Everything under the sun kind of energy? And then the mystery here is all that is, was, and ever shall be. All this is, was, and ever shall be. There is nothing new under the sun. The deepest marriage is the divine marriage within. And that divine marriage within is the divine feminine that we hold within us, in alignment with the divine masculine that is within us, the yin and the yang, the balance of those two sides. So the 6th vibration sits on the 17th path called the separating or disposing intelligence. It is associated with the number 6. It is associated with the sign of Gemini. This particular path on the tree of life connects Bina, the eternal mother principle, and Tiphareth, the spiritual beauty and light manifesting on the plane of earth, the eternal sun principle. So this is the Madonna and Child, really, energy of this path. Its astrological attribution is Gemini, and the Hebrew letter is Zion, which means the sword that cleaves, the sword that creates duality out of unity. The intelligence the separating or disposing intelligent. In order to join, separation must first be acknowledged. So how would you know of unity if you didn't know of separation? And how could you yearn for unity without the knowledge of separation, right? Essence, the lovers are the children of God, also referred to as the children of the voice of the superconscious. The children of the voice of the superconscious. The veil here is that each one of us is a separate entity. We are born alone and we die alone. There are moments when we can only do what we do by ourselves. And yet we're not really separate because there are levels of connection that we may not be aware of when we move from aloneness to merging with another. And that can be a physical merge, that can be a metaphysical merge. It can be a merging of the minds or a merging of spirit, our soul groups and the like. The mystery here is separation is essential for evolution. Part of the self stays in ascension, while part of the self descends into manifestation. We are each a spark of one flame. So this is the great soulmate thing. My soulmate, he's my soulmate, she's my soulmate. Our true twin flame is ourselves, but it's the part of us that is still, that does not come into manifestation. And that drive to unite back with the core of ourselves is what drives us to ascend the tree of life. But it takes, it's a big tree, and it takes a lot to climb. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of lifetimes. And then the 26th path, which is the path of the devil. This is called the renewing intelligence. It mediates between Tiphareth, our higher consciousness, our higher self, as it were, and Hod, the thinking mind, the Sephiroth associated with Mercury. The astrological attribution of this path is Capricorn, and the Hebrew letter associated with is ayin, meaning the eye, this eye, the third eye. And we can see even in this depiction of the devil, this is the Thoth deck, we can see the third eye on the goat, which is associated with Capricorn. We have the spirals, which is the spiral of incarnation, and then the spiral of ascension. We can see here that there are levels of consciousness here. And of course, if you haven't recognized it, because this is, what's his name? This is Aleister Crowley. It's a giant penis with two testicles, which is sort of that sort of masculine, penetrating power. So the renewing intelligence is the knowledge of unity. In the Thoth deck, and in the Rider-Waite deck, there's the devil sits there with a little grin on his face because he knows the truth. The people who are chained to him may not understand the truth, or maybe they do and they choose not to choose the light, and they want to stay in their prison of density. The veil here is a separate Lord prevails over darkness. That is what we call the devil, but the devil is not separate from God. The mystery here is God and the devil are revealed by reflection. As humanity changes, so do the concepts of God and the devil. Faith and science must work together, holding a sublime balance to produce a new reality for humankind. Remember, Pluto is on this path and has been there since 2008. Pluto, the great transformer, Pluto, the world soul, Pluto letting go and letting God. Now we're going to take a look at the chakras activated through these vibrations. The first one will be the sixth vibration, which is the Gemini vibration. It is located right here on this path between Bina, the third Sephiroth, and Tiphareth, the sixth. The Saturn and the Sun here. And this path is the path of Gemini. The chakra activation through the path of the lovers is the third eye here. Okay, and the heart. The third eye is Anja, which means to perceive or to command. And the heart chakra is called Anahata, meaning unstruck. It is the sound of creation that need not strike against something else to be heard. Okay, it's the Om. And the question we ask is, or a way that we can work with this energy is to visualize what's in your heart. What do you see and how does it make you feel? So this is a connection between our capacity to see, both physically see and metaphysically see, along with our ability to feel. It's a little noisy here. I'm sorry. There's some school buses going down the road. Are kids in school already? Oh, these poor things. I would hate to have to go back to school already. Now my bird is squawking at the neighbor's child who just got home from school. So it's a little noisy here. Sorry about that. How very Gemini. So the chakras activated through the path of the Hermit. Now the path of the Hermit is located right here between Hesed, the fourth Sephiroth associated with Jupiter, and the Sun, Tiphareth, the Sephiroth of the Sun. So this activates the throat chakra and the heart. The throat chakra is called Vishuddha, meaning purification. The throat chakra is where divine will sits. It's divine will. And so this is a direct connection between the will of the divine and our own heart. So this is about speaking with love and expressing your heart's desire. What brings you joy? What brings you a sense of fullness in your heart? What fills you up and makes you brighter? That is the journey on this path. And that is the lesson that we're learning this month through this path. And specifically in this month. And now the 15-6 vibration. This is the path of the devil. This is located right here between Tiphareth, the heart, and the sixth Sephiroth, and Hod, the eighth. This is the higher self, and this is the mind, the logical mind. It is part of the our lower nature. Our lower nature. In fact, this is the first path here that's connected to any of the lower three chakras. Okay. So the chakra activation through the path of the devil is the heart, Anahata, meaning unstruck, and the solar plexus, Manipura, which means lustrous gem. This is about thinking with your heart and feeling with your mind. This path is a challenging one. Capricorn is not an easy energy to master. It is an energy of mastery, actually. And so it's a lot of hard work, a lot of reality, and yet it's very important that we stay connected to the our higher vibrational self, our higher self, so that it doesn't become just about creating things on the physical plane, but becoming a conduit of light for the upper realms so that we can be informed on what to create on the physical plane. Okay, so now we're going to look at the astrology. We're going to look at the first 10 days of September. There's a couple of things going on. I call it Virgolicious. because there's a lot of Virgo energy as we start the month. And let's take a look at what I mean. So on September 1st, we have a lovely sextile between Mars and Jupiter. And this is a description of the transit of these two planets. I actually got this from the Leo King, so we'll give him credit. Good credits where credit is due. He's got some really good stuff out there. It says Mars sextile Jupiter transit makes you feel strong and courageous. It is an ideal time to tackle any difficult task because there is an excellent chance of success. This transit's reputation for good luck is due to increased optimism, strong instincts, initiative, and a willingness to take risks. And Jupiter at this time is in Aries, so that is very much true. And Mars is in Gemini, and Gemini is very curious. So there's a lot of things that Mars and Gemini want to find out about. Go and read, go and see, right? Show me, show me, show me. On Friday, September 2nd, we have Venus making in conjunct to Pluto. This is also from the Leo King. Trust issues may run deep. You may not be sure if it's okay. Oh, actually, this isn't from the Leo King. This was from Tom Jacobs. Sorry. Trust issues may run deep. You may not be sure if it's okay to let down your guard enough to let others close. This can translate into emotional and financial issues as relationships centered on exchange, give and take between people. So this is about really dealing with your issues of trust and mistrust. Now, it's not to say you should trust people. You have to use your discernment here. You have to use your discernment. This energy with Pluto in Capricorn and Venus in Virgo, not Virgo, Venus in Leo, has to do with a willingness to maybe give up some of your more intense emotions that hold you back from entering society, from being a member of society. It sounds crazy. It sounds like, well, don't you want to be a member of society? Well, some people don't, actually, because society is like messed up, right? They're like, well, oh, I don't know. I think I know better than society knows. But we're all evolving, right? And so society is a different thing depending on the point of view that you take, or what society you're looking at, or what people are saying and talking about. It's just this is issues of trust, and I can't blame Venus for not trusting Pluto, honestly. She did have those 3 meetups with Pluto from the end of December of last year until I think February, or it might have been, no, I think it was the end of January. And she had that retrograde period, and then she met up with Saturn, and it was a real slog. It was a real slog for Venus. And she's coming around and she's like, I want to enter society, which of course Venus would love to do, but we don't always trust those in power, and that's really what Venus and Pluto is about. It's who holds the power in the relationship. On the same day, the second that we have this challenging aspect between Venus and Pluto, we also have an opposition between Mercury and Jupiter. Now, this Mercury opposite Jupiter transit brings big ideas and grand plans, always when Jupiter's involved, and you should feel optimistic and sociable. You may have many ideas and cover a lot of ground, but to make the most of this transit, you will need to narrow your view and take on fewer projects. So this is about really sort of looking to see what you can realistically accomplish. Look at you, what you can realistically accomplish. Okay, so here we have the chart of the sextile between Mars and Jupiter. This is the first. And this is a chart for the US. We have Virgo rising on this chart. It was erected for Washington, D.C. So this cycle between Jupiter and Mercury began at the Jupiter, what did I say Mercury? This should be Jupiter Mercury conjunction, I believe. Hold on one second. I just want to make sure I'm giving you the right information. Okay, I just had to check my facts. So this cycle began when Jupiter and Mars began, started with their conjunction. That occurred on May 29th of 2022 at 4 degrees of Aries. And 4 degrees of Aries is two lovers strolling on a secluded walk. The progressive polarization of energies needed for fulfilling one's function. This symbol speaks of the need for another person sort of to reflect back to us, that it's part of the journey to walk through this this path of duality. That's really just, you know, part of what we're learning at this time. This particular sextile that's happening is an opening sextile. So it opens the lines of communication. It has the underlying energy of Gemini already. And then you add Mars and Gemini, and this is a very curious time. It says this is opening the lines of communication. This combination is highly experience driven. So it's experiential because Jupiter is experiential. Jupiter wants to experience life, and Mars wants to go out there and help Jupiter figure it all out. This chart for the US could be taking action to open the lines of communication on foreign affairs and relationships to the larger world. And we can sort of see that we have Jupiter sitting in the house of open enemies, but also people that we agree with, people that we're in relationship with. And we have Mars in the 9th house, which is usually action outside of out of the country, right? 9th house, far journeys. Hopefully, with Gemini being there, it will be about talking. It will be about diplomacy. And Jupiter, of course, is sitting in the house of diplomacy. So we could see this, maybe something changes with Brittany Griner. Perhaps something changes with Iran. Maybe something changes with Taiwan and China. There's a lot of things sort of percolating, or with Russia and the Ukraine. So there's a lot of possibility here, and certainly there's a lot of talking that needs to be done. So, all right, let's keep going here. Sorry, guys, I have no idea what just happened. All right, so, and then we're looking at the September 2nd opposition between Jupiter and Mercury. Now, this opposition that we have is the halfway point of a synodic cycle that began with the Mercury-Jupiter conjunction at 19 degrees of Pisces. That occurred back on the 21st of March, 2022. It was a 30/3 vibration, which is actually a Jupiter. It sits in the Sephiroth Hesed, which is Jupiter's Sephiroth. So there's this energy of expansion just within the vibration of the day that the conjunction occurred. So the symbol here is a master instructing his disciples. The keynote is the transfer of power and knowledge, which keeps the original spiritual and creative impulse of the cycle active and undeviated. And here we have the keyword of investiture. So there's a certain amount of energy of mastery that comes in with this conjunction. And have you mastered what you've put out to master? Well, the opposition is the halfway point. It's the fruits of the seed that was planted at the new moon, or at the new phase, or at the initial conjunction of a cycle. And so let's take a look at the Sabian symbols first for these. We have the Mercury is at 7 degrees of Libra now, and it's making an opposition to Jupiter at 7 degrees of Aries. Of course, the initial conjunction occurred in Pisces. But the opposition, this is towards the end of Pisces, we see in these two signs. So Mercury at 7 degrees of Libra, a woman feeding chickens and protecting them from hawks. The need to face antagonism of powers of darkness as one attempts to feed the minds of as yet helpless and frightened apprentices. And this is the key word here is guardianship. So this warns us that we need to be vigilant. We need to be vigilant. And if you are in a position where you are teaching others about something, it is important that you hold your student base or your disciples, as it were, your students or those who are learning from you. Keep them safe. Allay their fears if that's what you need to do. Let them know that you know, both the reality of a situation and the best possible way of navigating that with what is in front of them, or the tools that they have, or the tools that you give them. We have Jupiter at 7 degrees of Aries. It says a man succeeds in expressing himself simultaneously in two realms. The first realization of the dual nature of man and the possibilities it implies, living two separate lives. So this is the idea of being in the world but not of the world. And yet we still need to do stuff in the world so that we can live in this world and do the work that is not of this world. So this is the opposition. So we need to be careful. We need to be mindful of the people we're bringing along with us, and we also need to take care of our own personal needs as well as so that we can do the work that we need to do at this time. All right, Saturday, September 3rd, we have a first quarter square between the sun and the moon. The moon is in Sag. This is the crisis in action state of the lunation cycle that began with that new moon in Virgo. That new moon in Virgo was at 5 degrees of Virgo, a man becoming aware of nature spirits and normally unseen spiritual agencies. The keynote is opening of new levels of consciousness. So we are being driven to open up to new levels of consciousness. This would be a really good time to take a class that expands your understanding of your place in the world, okay? That first quarter square, you want to take an action, and it's in Sag, so you're going to be in a philosophical point of view. And I say that I have a couple of new classes. I have a beginner's astrology class. I have a Kabbalah class that is a continuation of my beginner's class that's happening. I have my astrology salon, and I also have a Saturday morning afternoon class coming up for more advanced astrology topics. So if you're interested in coming to any of my classes, there are plenty of them, and I will put a link in the description so you can find them. On Monday the 5th, we have Venus ingressing into Virgo. Interesting about that is that it's on Labor Day, and I can't think of a more laborious Venus placement than Venus in Virgo. Well, no, that's not true. I guess Venus in any of the earth signs would be a laborious process because the nature of Earth is laborious. But you get a lot of, it's hard work, but you're generally the work that you put in counts with that, right? Okay. And then on Friday the 9th, we have Venus making inconjunct to Jupiter. This brings the potential for relationship tension or financial stress. An imbalance between the love you give and receive needs correcting. If you have done too much for someone, they may start taking advantage of a situation and make you feel used and abused. So this is giving too much. You have to just not, just put a stop. to the giver. You have to say no sometimes to certain things because you just don't have the energy or most likely the resources to do it. That's usually the case with this combination. And then we have also on Friday the 9th, which happens to be the 9/9 portal, we have Venus stationing retrograde at 9 degrees of Libra. Did I say Venus? I meant Mercury. Now, Mercury rules the sun in Virgo. Mercury rules Venus in Virgo. Mercury rules Mars in Gemini. So this retrograde Mercury affects a lot of the other planets in sort of through proxy. All right, let's continue. I'm so sorry, guys. I have no idea what's going on here. I'm trying to continue. Oh my goodness, 1 second. I'm feeling this Mercury retrograde already. How about you? All right, here we go. Here's Venus's ingress into Virgo. Here she is down here. This is a chart for the US. Interestingly enough, we have a Gemini rising and Venus here in the 4th house. The 4th house is our home, real estate, our family, okay? You know, the country that you stand in is that 4th house. So Venus is ingress into Virgo. She takes off her opera glasses and her coiffed hair and all those accoutrements of Leo, being the queen of the May. Maybe she takes off her pageant gown. Maybe she takes off, you know, and she puts on her work clothes. Now, is your work clothes a business suit? Is your work clothes gardening? You know, some jeans with a nice shirt that'll keep you cool during the harvest time. Whatever it is, whatever work you do, Venus puts on the garb of the worker when Venus moves into Virgo. In a this is 1 degree of Virgo. In a portrait, the significant features of a man's head are artistically emphasized. The keynote here is the capacity to picture to oneself clearly the salient features and overall meaning of any life situation. Discrimination. And that's really what Virgo is all about, discrimination. So Venus moving into Virgo is very discriminating. Now, as she moves into Virgo, the ruler of Virgo, which is Mercury, is at 8 degrees of Libra, a blazing fireplace in a deserted home. The keynote is the need to realize that even through the emptiest hours, the spiritual power is ever ready to welcome and warm up the wayward consciousness, returning to center. It's interesting because Virgo is the sign of the Virgin Mother, right? The mother of the Christ child. And she had within her the light of the world in her womb. So there's this energy of the light in Virgo is there, but it's sort of hidden in a way, and it's waiting and it's preparing and it's getting ready to be born. And then later in the day, right, we have Mercury retrograde, station retrograde. And this is occurring on the 9th. Did I say later in the day? I think it's the next, let me just see here. So we had the 5th where Venus moved into Virgo, and then 4 days later, we have Mercury go retrograde. So when Venus moves into Virgo, Mercury is not retrograde. It is in its shadow. It is pretty much standing still, but it's not retrograde. It actually has moved another degree forward before it retrogrades. And so now Mercury is at 9 degrees of Libra. And it says here, and so it's stationing retrograde on 9/9, which is the 9/9 portal. It's at 9 degrees of Libra, and it's happening in the 9th month. So that's a lot of nines. And nines always mean like wrapping things up. So the Sabian symbol for 9 degrees of Libra, 3 old masters hanging on the wall of a special room in an art gallery. The need to return to source during a confused search for new values in a chaotic society. So there is a certain amount of having to go back to key principles, key maybe moral precepts that you have, key principles, things getting down to the simplest of things, right? Getting down to the simple things. Keep it simple, stupid kiss, right? So that there's no need to overcomplicate the situation, but go to the basics, or go to the primary sort of the primary view that you have. Love thy neighbor as thyself, right? The tenets of Jesus, maybe that's, maybe those are your tenets, but that is sort of the energy. Noisy neighbors, sorry about that. It's a little noisy here today. And so as far as how long will Mercury be retrograde, Mercury will be retrograde from September 9th through October 2nd. So the first sort of, actually 9 days, because it occurs at night, occurs like 11:30 at night here on the East Coast of the US. So the first 9 days are good with Mercury, even though it's sort of slowing down and in its shadow. It's still good. Once it goes retrograde, then things get a little bit more confusing, and it will be retrograde for the rest of the month, and it changes on October 2nd. It goes all the way back to 25 degrees of Virgo. So if you have anything between 25 degrees of Virgo and 9 degrees of 9 degrees, yeah, 25 degrees of Virgo and 9 degrees of Libra, Mercury is going to be going over that part of your chart 3 times. So it's in those parts of your chart that you may want to look to see what needs to be done, what needs to be changed, what needs to be redone, what needs to be rewritten, what needs to be looked over again. And because we're dealing with Libra and Virgo energy, it could be contracts, it could even be marriage contracts, or spoken or unspoken, right? So these are the kind of things. Libra stimulates conversation. Libra hopefully stimulates our ability to listen to each other. And Virgo stimulates our want and our desire to fix what's broken. Here we go. And on Saturday, September 10th, vibrates to a 25/7. That is the Knight of Wands, the knight rearing up on the stallion, going on his adventures, wanting to experience the world. We have a full moon in Pisces, with the sun at 18 degrees of Virgo, of course, and the moon at 18 degrees of Pisces. Now, this is the fruition of the lunation cycle that began with that new moon at 5 degrees of Virgo. Just to remind you, the Sabian symbol of that was a man becoming aware of nature spirits and normally unseen spiritual agencies, becoming aware of your environment, becoming aware of nature, the nature around you, the fact that man's consciousness is not the only consciousness that is on this planet. We have planetary consciousness, we have animal consciousness, we have mineral consciousness, we have tree consciousness. It's all there, and a lot of us have never even been taught how to connect to it, but we've had many lifetimes when we knew how. So even if you don't know in this lifetime, it doesn't mean that that knowledge isn't somewhere in your energy field, and we get stimulated to learn that again. So we have a full moon at 18 degrees of Pisces. In a gigantic tent, villagers witness a spectacular performance. The keynote here is the collective appeal of well-staged and exciting displays of skill and oratory. The key word, public self-dramatization. And this is in opposition to 18 degrees of Virgo, which symbol is a Ouija board. the ability to contact deeper recesses of unconscious psyche and sensitiveness to psychic intimations and omens, inner guidance. So, and the nature of a full moon is one of awareness. And so we have to be aware of both the unseen and the very much seen in a balance to that. Now the moon in this chart here, we'll take a look at the chart for this new moon. And I'm going to be doing a moonshine episode with Ona for the full moon. So we'll talk a little bit more about this on that episode. But here we have the sun, and this is for the US. We have a Virgo rising. In this chart, you notice all this Virgo rising stuff that's happening with these charts, but we have the sun in Virgo in the first house. The sun is the first house is the I am house. Virgo is I am in need of fixing. I am in need of adjustment. I am in need of some sort of perfecting. Okay, and then we have the moon in Pisces in the seventh house, and moon in Pisces in the seventh house is someone is something. It's an energy that's very sensitive to the other. And we add that, and the sensitivity is increased by the fact that it's within a close, relatively close conjunction. It's still conjunct 7 degrees, 6 degrees. So, still conjunct though, Neptune, which sort of doubles down on that Pisces energy, right? We have Neptune and Pisces. This could also be a time when we have some weather events with this full moon in Pisces conjunct Neptune, weather, flooding, stuff like that. So be aware of that. It's very possible. We do have this moon in a trine to the south node, the sun in a trine to the north node. We actually have a mystical rectangle here. And sometimes when you see a mystical rectangle in a chart, you can feel a little like you're in your own little world. But we do have a square of part of this mystic rectangle from Saturn here. So we don't get away with living in our own little world without reality knocking on the door and saying, hey guys, reality here. Dream the big dream, do the good thing, and keep your eye on what's real as well. It's not just about airy fairy in the sky stuff, but it's also about really practical things. All right, let's see what else we have here. We also have Mars squaring this new moon axis, the full moon axis. Mars squared the new moon. Remember, Mars was within like minutes of an exact square to the new moon, and Mars is sort of moving along with this full moon, a little bit behind, but it's still there. So we do have Mars square the moon. There can be some irritation with that. We have Mars square sun. This square between the sun and Mars is a crisis in action square. So it's helpful. It's helpful because a lot of things need to be done. A lot of things need to be fixed. A lot of things need to be gone through. And this is the energy that's going to help you do that. It's going to help you do that. So I believe that's it. That's it. Okay. So hopefully you found this information helpful. Check out my taroscopes for the month, and I will be back probably next week to do the next 10 days, maybe, or the next, it depends on how much is going on, how many days I want to put in my astrology forecast, because there's a lot of information, and hopefully you find it helpful. All right, guys, have yourself a wonderful month. Take care, stay balanced, let go where you need to let go, declutter where you need to declutter, organize. Mercury retrograde, you might have to do it a couple of times. So don't be stressed by that. Eventually, if you just put the energy there with the right intention, I think you're going to get a lot of benefit from this time. In the days of the Virgolicious. Virgolicious September. All right, guys, take care. Namaste.